The foreign ministers of the G7 countries have wrapped up 3 days of talks with a joint communique that takes a strong line on China and supports Taiwan. That drew a sharp reaction from Beijing.
Without any factual basis for their accusations, the G7 meeting publicly interfered in China's domestic affairs, playing up clique politics to reverse historical trends, grossly interfering with China's sovereignty, and recklessly harming principles of international affairs.
In their communique, the G7 ministers criticized China's growing presence in the East and South China Seas. They expressed opposition to any unilateral actions that could undermine the rules-based international order. And they voiced concern about human rights violations and abuses in the Xinjiang Uyghur Autonomous Region. The G7 ministers also mentioned the importance of maintaining peace and stability across the Taiwan Strait. They said they encouraged the peaceful resolution of cross-strait issues. The G7 ministers expressed support for Taiwan's participation in World Health Organization forums and the World Health Assembly. That drew a message of appreciation from Taiwan's foreign ministry. Hong Kong pro-democracy activist Joshua Wong is facing 10 extra months in jail. He was sentenced for taking part in a banned vigil to remember the 1989 Tiananmen Square crackdown. The court also gave 3 other activists prison terms of 4 to 6 months. The 4 activists pleaded guilty. They were convicted last Friday. 20 other people have also been indicted for taking part in the vigil last June. Wong is already serving jail terms handed down over 2 separate charges for taking part in protests.
The court keeps on stressing that none of us have more freedom than others. But we are not seeking more freedom than others. We are seeking a guaranteed right under our constitution, under our basic law, under the Bill of Rights.
People in Hong Kong have remembered the Tiananmen Square crackdown by holding a vigil every year. They continued even after Britain handed the territory back to China in 1997. The vigils were seen as symbolizing Hong Kong's freedom of assembly. But police banned the event for the first time last year. They cited coronavirus restrictions. The people who organized the vigils are planning to go ahead this year, but the prospects are not clear. The number of new coronavirus infections confirmed in India on Thursday hit a record high of more than 410,000. Its neighbor Nepal and some Southeast Asian nations have also seen a spike in cases. The Indian government reported 3,980 deaths on Thursday, also the largest number on record. Shortages of hospital beds and medical oxygen continue in India, putting the medical system under severe strain. The Japanese embassy there says the number of Japanese people infected with the virus has also been increasing rapidly since March. Employees of Japanese companies and others are temporarily returning home. Earlier this week, South Korea sent a chartered flight to India to bring home about 170 people. The country plans to send another plane on Friday. In Nepal, daily infections topped 8,000 on Wednesday, setting a new record. Authorities imposed harsh restrictions on outings in the capital Kathmandu and elsewhere out of concerns over coronavirus variants spreading in India. And recent daily figures in Thailand have hovered around 2,000 after the nation hit a high of over 2,800 in late April. Thai health authorities say the virus has spread mainly among young people in cluster infections. Massage parlors, bars, and parks have been closed in the capital, Bangkok. Now, Cambodia is also seeing a surge in infections since around March. The government is taking measures such as restricting residents from going out in areas where the infection situation is serious. Earlier, NHK World's Abhishek Dhulia reported on India's dire situation from New Delhi.
I'm filing this report from home where I have been working for a while now. You can feel a sense of helplessness as the country has been dealing with a fierce second wave since late February. In the capital, New Delhi, where I live, scenes of desperation, urgency, and frustration play out every day. Infected people are overwhelming the country's underfunded healthcare system. Phones are constantly ringing with friends and family members asking for help in finding hospital beds and oxygen supplies. The World Health Organization's weekly report says that as of May 2nd, India accounted for 46% of all global cases and a quarter of all deaths during the past week. Patients can be seen in hospital beds or in ambulances or even outside in the streets. Social media platforms are flooded with grim scenes of overcrowded crematoriums posted by people throughout India. Amid all this, the government has been caught napping and has come under sharp criticism. Experts say the government failed to gauge the situation while the pandemic was under control at the beginning of this year. They say this lean period was not used to augment healthcare facilities. Authorities are now ramping up the health infrastructure by doing such things as setting up makeshift medical facilities. A vaccination drive has also been launched for all those above 18 years of age. But there have been teething issues related to a mismatch in vaccine delivery and supply. Authorities hope to boost the inoculation program by permitting new foreign vaccines. Meanwhile, foreign aid in the form of medical supplies has started arriving from overseas. With the second wave causing havoc everywhere, the country needs to learn from this and prepare for the next anticipated surge. Abhishek Dhulia, NHK World, New Delhi.
The Japanese government has decided to extend the coronavirus state of emergency until the end of the month and expand its area to include 2 additional prefectures. But the Prime Minister says it'll listen to experts before making it official.
The government will consult with our expert panel on Friday about extending the state of emergency. We would like to decide how long it will last and where it will be in effect.
The declaration is now in place for Tokyo, Osaka, Hyogo, and Kyoto. The government seems poised to add Aichi and Fukuoka. Residents affected by the current state of emergency are asked to stay home as much as possible. Bars and restaurants are urged not to serve alcohol and close by 8 p.m. But the number of critically ill patients has continued to rise, hitting an all-time high on Wednesday. And Osaka's medical system is overwhelmed. A shortage of beds has led some patients to be admitted to hospital only after their condition worsened. Officials say for the first time, every bed set aside for those in serious condition is full. Osaka confirmed 747 new cases on Thursday. The situation prompted the prefecture to ask the central government to extend the state of emergency. Tokyo's governor is similarly concerned, especially about the rise of more contagious variants.
We believe the state of emergency needs to be extended based on analysis from a variety of angles.
The capital reported 592 new cases on Thursday. The daily tally is several hundred lower than last week, but experts say the drop could be linked to the recent spring holiday since many facilities processed fewer tests. Nationwide, officials on Thursday confirmed more than 4,300 new cases and over 60 deaths. Moving next to an update on the issue of how to change Japan's post-war constitution, which has never been amended. A lower house commission has approved a bill to revise procedures for holding a referendum. Ruling and opposition lawmakers have been debating the proposal to make a national vote more convenient since 2018. One sticking point was the main opposition's demand that advertisements be more heavily regulated. Ruling coalition lawmakers accepted the change.
It's important to find common ground among political parties and between rival factions. I think we've reached a satisfactory conclusion.
We welcome the fact that we have reached this situation where we could make fairer rules to govern referendums.
The The issue of advertising will be re-evaluated about 3 years after the bill takes effect. The bill is likely to be enacted during this session, set to end next month. Changing Japan's post-war constitution requires at least 2/3 support from both houses of the Diet and a majority of votes in a national referendum. No party has ever formally proposed an amendment. In other news, a group of South Koreans who've been referred to as wartime comfort women and their relatives are appealing a court ruling that dismissed their case against the Japanese government. The court applied the principle of sovereign immunity in its ruling last month. The legal concept says states are immune from the jurisdiction of foreign courts. Lawyers for the plaintiffs argue they deserve compensation for ill treatment they received while providing sexual services to Japanese soldiers. They say the principle should not have been applied, and the ruling goes against an international trend of giving priority to the protection of human rights. In a separate but similar lawsuit filed by a different group of women, the same district court in January ordered the Japanese government to pay damages. The Japanese government says it has consistently called on South Korea to take appropriate measures, arguing that ruling violates international law. Next in weather, a wet day is in store for a good portion of Japan on Friday. Our meteorologist Jonathan Oh has the forecast into the weekend in our World Weather Report.
Hello, the rainy season has started down toward the south and west as we went through the past couple of days, and now we're going to be seeing that rain spraying toward the north and east. Here's a quick look at some of the video to give you an idea of how things looked as we went through the day. As it is, this rainy season is about 11 days earlier than last year, 5 days earlier than normal, with some parts of Okinawa getting about 38 millimeters of rain in just 1 hour Wednesday. And on average, the rainy season lasts for about a month and a half or so. Now, I mentioned that the front will be lifting a bit toward the north. That's going to bring enough moisture into the area to where we're going to be seeing a wet day for Friday, starting off from the west, and then we'll see the eastern areas of Japan also picking up on the rainfall. So have the umbrellas as we go through the day. A big warm-up coming up for Tokyo after a high of 22 expected on Friday, up to 27 on Saturday and Sunday. Look at this. Sapporo also on the warm side, but you'll be on the downward trend, mid-teens coming up as we go into Sunday. It looks like not hot, though. Now that you're in the rain season, clouds, rain are going to be the main part of the story. Here's a look at what's happening across Europe. You may notice a big spin of a low pressure system near the Scandinavian peninsula, and we have another low that's bringing in some cold front through the central portions of the continent, and that's going to be bringing some of that wet weather as we go through Thursday and into Friday as the system pushes toward the east. And so a little bit more in terms of activity compared to what we saw more recently, where it's been a bit on the drier side. But yeah, we have some showers rolling through the central portions, moving toward the north and east, and so be on the lookout. We are looking at a chance for some rain as we head into Friday. Here's a look at the forecast. Cooler air also filtering in here with a high of only 8 degrees in Berlin, Warsaw at 16, also into Vienna as well. The warmer air, though, is going to remain down toward the south here. Madrid looking a high of 28 with sunny skies, 24 in Lisbon, and seeing low to mid-20s from Rome into Athens as we go through Friday. That's a look at your forecast. Hope you have a good day wherever you are.
The U.S. Secretary of State meets with Ukraine's president in Kyiv and says the two countries will continue their partnership against Russian aggression. A Hong Kong court sentences democracy activist Joshua Wong to 10 additional months in jail for his part in a memorial to the 1989 Tiananmen Square protests. The International Criminal Court sentences a former commander of the rebel Lord's Resistance Army in Uganda to 25 years for war crimes. And a Malian woman gives birth Tuesday to 9 healthy babies at a health center in Morocco.
Dozens of French fishing boats have ended a protest over fishing rights around the self-governing British Channel island of Jersey. France sent 2 patrol boats to the area, mirroring the dispatch of 2 British Royal Navy ships. The Global Alliance for Vaccines and Immunization has welcomed US support for the proposal to waive patent rights for COVID-19 vaccines. It's also urged Washington to help manufacturers transfer know-how to promote the increase of global vaccine production. India has once again reported a record number of cases and deaths. A new variant of coronavirus discovered in India in March may be linked to the massive surge. And the US Secretary of State has urged Russia to end what he called its reckless and aggressive actions towards Ukraine. Antony Blinken says the US is looking at increasing security assistance to Ukraine.